GM. So let's take a look at BTC. And look at Velo. I want to look at Coinalyze. And I want to also first look at ETH BTC just from the monthly open. So far. So monthly open was down here. There's the open. You can see ETH BTC has outperformed Bitcoin so far since the monthly open. Sol BTC is also outperforming roughly, is it? Well, it's flat. Okay. So this is midnight. It is slightly up. So the key point there is Solana and Ethereum are outperforming BTC so far. And I see that as the early month, so the start of the month, the new push, the new flows. Obviously, there was all this talk yesterday about somebody buying, 500 million worth of Bitcoin over here. Or was it 500 million? Can't remember exactly. I think it was 500 million on Binance. I mean, you can see it. So let's take a deeper dive into it. You can see roughly what they were doing. If you go into a 1 minute chart here, zoom it in, get the histogram on, look at the delta. Let me go all the way back. It was here, right? Yesterday morning. Yeah. It was on this big push. You'll notice here some of these bigger green spikes where you had 27, 18, 27, 18, 43, 27, 31, 20, yeah. So some decent accumulation there, and obviously if you just put it all together, you look at this one candle, there's 156 there, plus 60, about 210, about 270, 289, 300, about 340 just on that push. And the importance of that is, of course, doesn't mean that's just one person, but it was abnormal. It was abnormal flows for a Sunday early in the morning to have, 300 to 400 BTC being bought seemingly by, you can tell by like the footprint on it that it was one entity or one person, or at least a small number. And that was about 30 million, 40 million. So that's not overly significant. And I don't know where that example came from of someone buying 500 million. I think it was bullshit, fake news. But regardless, I'm massively digressing here, because what I wanted to show was that first move yesterday was spot-led. You can see that like from the lows to the move up here, 1.7%. And there was a tick up in Bitcoin open interest by 1.3, but price was leading on spot, right? Since then, however, so since the push up into that top of that level, and we had that short squeeze sell off to the bottom of this open interest candle here, right up to the peak where we had overnight, or this morning, early this morning, price has gone a further. So since the bottom of this candle, and price has gone up only another 3.5, while OI was up 4.8. So the momentum got ignited by that initial spot buying, but then it seems like futures took over and did more of the pushing. And then obviously we've had the monthly open, and we're starting to drift back downwards. Now, with BTC doing that, and then especially coupled with the fact that ETH was leading and Solana slightly leading, not by so much, but still a slight lead for them, and ETH not showing really any signs of open interest build up, right? We've got an actual divergence there as a push above the highs and OI is lower, which is a very interesting phenomenon for Ethereum, because there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of actual interest in Ethereum post the ETF pump. And whether this is going to be, a spot-led rally or not, I'm not sure. But as you look at it on the market as well, if you go to CME for Ethereum, and we look at the last 3 months, we had that initial spike up at the first rumor, and open interest has held up at these levels, but we haven't seen much in terms of a change. And at the same time, BTC has obviously been sliding off. So we're seeing money exiting Bitcoin, and some of it, I guess, has flowed into Ethereum, but overall it would tell me that TradFi doesn't seem to be super interested at the moment right now. Certainly they're not the ones behind the Bitcoin move or the Ethereum move. It seems to be happening more on the offshore exchanges for those two coins. So as a trade, do I have a trade today? Does the market tell me anything here? Not while we're here, right? If price falls back below the level it broke, so the main level will be these highs, right? That would be where all the liquidity was resting, since that was Wednesday's high. And then we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all the stops building up. We blasted through them with a big spike up of open interest on Bitcoin. And that's all fine and good as long as it holds here, which it is holding so far. If Bitcoin falls back below there, and you see that is a really clear sign, I would say, that that's a completed failed break. It would also be a failure of the value area that I mentioned for BTC. So it would be the value area low of the old distribution area, which we're right in now. So there's the value area low, the blue zone. And similarly, if price were to fall back down below that, it would also be a successful bearish retest of the value area low. And that's what you'd probably be looking at, a flush towards the pivot, because it would be a completed failed attempt. So I talked about it yesterday. It's like when price is consolidating this, and I said on Weekly Outlook that anybody who's shorting into this is at real risk, because as a consolidation trader, right, if you're playing with a swing high there and a swing low here, you're including the wicks, and price is consolidating there, you do not want to take a short or a long until one side or the other gets wrecked. And so the first thing that got wrecked was the short side. Now, is Bitcoin going to actually form a new trend and go higher? Or was that just a early month, pump up into the monthly close, take out those stops, and then we fall back down and continue the trend? Early to say. Too early to say for sure. But if I see this price rejecting back inside, I'll certainly be considering that bearish unless something majorly changes. So those are some of the setups I'm looking for. If you're going to actually short it though, there's definitely no short trigger here based on any of that. It would have to lose this level first and not just dip back below, because this can flush back below briefly and then reclaim and be really bullish if it followed like that green. That wouldn't be bad. Dipping back below is not a bearish sign by itself, because again, that can just be a trap. It has to lose it. So if it loses it like the blue line, and really you'd also want to see it lose significant strength, which to me would be like retracing all of this. So it falls back down to there, squeezes up towards the range high, rejects, and then you go lower. That red path around there and there, that's where you actually want to be shorting it. You have to allow the weakness to happen. If it comes all the way back, it's quite clear then that was just a push to take out stops. And then of course people will pile into shorts here, they'll get squeezed up. They should not be able to get back above that previous area because there was no real price action up there, it was just a squeeze. And that's the area then you would want to be looking to short, down towards the pivot and range low. Otherwise, no triggers yet, because if BTC hangs around here, if I go back out to the daily, put on the bands, if BTC actually hangs around here and stays between 62.5 and 63.5, then it's squeezing in the bands, which can be bullish. Now the bands are well spread apart, so I don't expect that. Basically, we've had already quite a volatile move up into them, and I don't think there's been enough compression yet for a bigger breakout. Even look here, when it first pushed into them, it had to come back down and spend a week or more building, and have a catalyst, which was the CPI, to then have an impulse higher. To get these proper moves, it takes a proper catalyst. When there is no proper catalyst, like we saw here, pushes up into it, can't hold, rejects back, grinds, goes lower. So I don't see any catalysts, but of course they can come from nowhere. I just don't see Bitcoin as having really a strong case for big bullish moves yet. So I would be more inclined to look towards some type of rejection, some type of sell-off, but we're still quite a bit away from that. Yeah. So that's it. GM, probably a short trade that can present if you see that path. As for longs, in a simple sense with longs, regardless of the green path or anything, the longer Bitcoin spends consolidating in this area, the more bullish it becomes for longs, right? So if Bitcoin just isn't able to go lower, just like that, if it's doing anything like that and then the volatility dies off, that's when it's going to go higher, right? It just should. If you're looking at this from a perspective of rejections and acceptance, the longer it spends outside of this blue line above it, that's acceptance. That's Bitcoin wanting to be at a new level. And since the trend is up, low into a high, into a higher low, into a higher high, and it's here, if the trend is up and it's showing that it doesn't want to go back down, it's probably going to go up another leg. And then you've got these really weak, super weak stops up here for any shorts. That's a very, very easy place to target on a squeeze. So probably today and tomorrow is just going to be choppy noise, and you might have a bit more of a clear idea moving into the second half of the week. GM.